Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hyrulian Hijinks, Episode 6, and my first episode since I finished the game, which is quite an interesting thing to say.
Did you finish it last week?
Well, I guess my first episode post talking about finishing the game. I don't know, that didn't make as much sense as it made in my head.
Gotcha.
But anyway, I'm Ben.
I'm Josh.
And
this is Atticus.
This is Atticus.
We have an Atticus head.
Yeah.
Or back.
He'll come and go during this, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, we're talking about Tears of the Kingdom as we've been doing for 5 weeks now. This is the 6th week. Maybe not many more.
Maybe not.
But we'll keep talking about video games for sure. But yeah, Josh, do you want to kick us off with maybe like a loose outline of some stuff that's been going on this week?
Absolutely. So, not as much story progression as I was expecting this week. So I defeated the Gerudo boss, which I was like up to last week. And then I chased Zelda around a castle for a while.
Yep.
Who wasn't Zelda and just kept turning into monsters.
Oh, you did that? Okay, that's cool. That's a very fun little thing. Yep.
I got stuck on all the Phantom Ganons.
Yep.
And decided to go do other things.
Okay. So you didn't beat all the Phantom Ganons?
I haven't defeated them yet.
Okay.
That's like the next thing. Maybe later tonight.
Yeah.
After this, I have to do some more work, and then I will get one more shrine, and I'll explain why in a second. And then I'll go and defeat the Phantom Ganons. But I explored heaps of the depths.
Okay.
And also did a bunch of shrines.
Yeah, cool.
So this leads me to my stats update. So last week I had 23 hearts.
Yep.
I now have 27.
Yep.
Last week I had 2 rings of stamina, and Nicrotex was mortified that I didn't care about stamina. So Nicrotex, I now have 3 full rings of stamina.
Yeah.
I've got all the stamina that I can possibly get, I think.
Yeah, amazing.
I've still only got 2 full batteries. For that, I can probably upgrade it like 1 or 2 more times at this stage because of how much of the depths that I've done. But speaking of the depths, last week I had 11 light roots. Now I have 57.
That's a lot. I think that's more than me now.
Last week I had 86 shrines. Now I have 119.
Oh my goodness.
And last week I had 66 Korok seeds, and I've got 72 now. So not too much change there, but
that's insane.
I did upgrade. I did find whatever the dude's name is and upgrade a bunch of slots, inventory slots and stuff. But
Josh,
I've just
that's
been...
crazy.
I hit the depths hard, and then when I did that, when I'd done that for a while, because I was doing the bargainer statues, so I've found all the bargainer statues because I figured with the Phantom Ganons, it would be easier to defeat them if I had the
Gloom
armor, Gloom armor.
Yeah.
So I found all the bargainer statues to get the Gloom armor.
Yeah.
And just got obsessed with doing light roots and the depths and stuff. It was super fun.
That's so
and
cool.
then there was a few light roots underneath that I found that weren't connected to shrines on top. Like I hadn't found the corresponding one because they're directly connected.
Yeah.
So I found all of the light roots that I had found in the depths, and then changed the map to the upper, and then put a marker there, and then went around and found all of them.
That's impressive.
And then I've just been doing shrines for the last day or 2.
Yeah, wow.
Finding more and more shrines.
That's crazy.
It's been really fun.
You've done a lot more than I thought you would have. When we briefly talked about this yesterday, you were like, oh yeah, it'll be short, and I'll explain why. That's not why. That doesn't sound... I mean, I doubt we could talk about it that much because it's just you've been doing a lot of busy work, and I think that's what you meant.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
But it's like you've still done a lot. You still played a lot of Zelda.
I've been playing heaps. I've been playing so much. But
I was just looking at my stats Last week I had 68 shrines. This week I have 71 shrines.
Nice.
Last week I had 40 light roots. This week I have 41. Last week I had 74 Korok seeds. This week I have 74 Korok seeds.
Nice.
And you'd be like...
Still got more Korok seeds than I do.
You'd be like, wow, Ben, you haven't played the game at all this week. Oh, but I have.
Ooh, I'm so intrigued. I'm so intrigued post game what you've been doing.
I haven't played it that much because it is a thing where I like immediately finished the game and I was like, I'm gonna take it a little lighter for a bit because like obviously there's like plenty of other games to play. Final Fantasy 16, for example. Yep. We've been playing Diablo again, all those kind of things. Steam Next Fest was last week. Lots of things going on. So I haven't had a lot of chance to play it, but I have been like a couple nights when I've been like struggling to sleep or something. I've just been like, I'll just do some Zelda stuff for a little bit. So I have been going around. The one main thing I did for the first bit of the week was I found one of the dragons, and I found the frost dragon, and I was like, I had learnt as you start to upgrade the fierce deity armor, which I believe is the armor set based on Majora's Mask, I think
so, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, to upgrade that, you need a bunch of different bits of the dragons. And I didn't realize, because in the Breath of the Wild, the only bit you could shoot off the dragon was the scales. And so I didn't realize that you can actually shoot more bits off the dragon in this game. Because when I got to the next upgrade stage, it was like claw of blah blah dragon. I can't remember all their names.
Sure, yeah.
And so I was like, oh man, I've got to find these dragons and start getting all the bits. And so I just like at one point, I think I was just like kind of running around doing a couple shrines. As you can see, I only did a couple. But I was running around and I was like, oh, there's a dragon in the sky. I better go up and get to the dragon. So I pulled out my my hover bike, the classic hover bike, and I was like,
nice.
time to go up to the dragon. Now I've got a lot of batteries. That hover bike, wonderful.
That's sick.
And I was like, all right, time to go up to the dragon. I went up to the dragon and I ran along its back, and there's all these little shards of their back you can also collect, which are good to like fused weapons or sell or that kind of thing. So that was super good. And then I was like, I initially shot a scale off it, and then I realized, oh, I can't shoot anything more off it. And I was like, oh, that's right, they've got like a cooldown in how long it takes that you can you can shoot stuff off it. So I was like, I'll just wait on the back of the dragon for a while. So I had my Switch open, I put it down, I started doing other stuff, occasionally checking my Switch, kind of like looking through Twitter on my phone. And then I was like, and just kind of like let it respawn. Takes 10 minutes. Takes 10 minutes for the dragons to refresh, get shiny again. And I was like, and I eventually I was like, all right, I'm going to Google how many different parts there are, because you can upgrade this armor piece a bunch. So I assume there's a bunch of different parts you can shoot off.
Yeah.
So as I was doing that, I was like Googling that, and then I looked down at my Switch and I noticed it was about to go down into the depths. So I had to like reposition myself on the back of the dragon so that it would stay. I had to like, it was going downwards, so I had to like position myself on one of the spikes so I wouldn't fall down. But then it wasn't that easy. I was like having to like adjust myself constantly, because Link would just, otherwise he'd just fall off and fall down into the depths. And I was like, this is a pain in the ass, but I had committed to it at this point. I was like, I'm going to do this. So eventually
so good.
It refreshed itself. I had Googled stuff at this point. I realized that you can shoot off the horns, claws, teeth, and scales, and then you can get all the bits off its back. And I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I need to wait on this dragon till I've got one of every bit, so that when I do go to upgrade this stuff, eventually, you need also like Hinox parts, I think. So I was like, well, at least I'll have the stuff stored up from this one dragon. And anytime I find a dragon, I now am just going to wait on it till I've done all these things. And so I stood on that dragon. This crossed over 2 days. I wasn't doing anything else. Oh, at one point, no, I did go down in the depths and got a light root, because I was like, that's kind of close, I can get that. And then I made another bike and got back up. And so I stayed on this dragon for like 40 minutes. Because again, the first time I shot it, I shot a scale off, so I had to wait for that, and then I had to get the other 3 parts. So yeah, about 40, 50 minutes total. Got all the...
Is it like you... How do you, like, if you shoot off a scale, can you not just immediately go shoot a tooth or a claw?
No, because it like it's like the
Does it
dragon.
randomize?
The dragons are like glowing, right? And so you can shoot. It's all about the part you shoot. You can actually specifically like shoot the horn, and it'll give you a horn, or you can shoot the claw, and it'll give you a claw.
Okay.
But you can only do one at a time, and then you have to wait 10 minutes. So that was why there's not like, it's like hard, like you shoot one off, you've got to wait 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you miss...
and if you shoot the claw, then you have to like get off the dragon and get it.
Kind of, yeah. So there was a little bit of that of, again, making another bite to get back up. It does stay in the same spot for a little bit. So if you're quick enough, you can go and grab it. And then the other thing is the dragons all have like a wind force around them that sends you back up. So it's a little bit forgiving in that sense, but there were a couple times where I had to like get my way back up. But I was like, I've committed to this at this point. This is all I'm doing.
For sure.
So I now have all the bits of the frost dragon. I won't be visiting a frost dragon again, at least not in the near future.
Damn, but I was on the back of 2 dragons this week.
Yeah.
I accidentally came across the frost one I was going into the depths, and it was also going into the depths. And so I went and collected, I think, a scale or a horn,
shard.
Maybe the horn.
Shard.
Yeah. And a bunch of shards.
Yeah.
But the horn right at the front.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think that was the horn.
Yeah.
So I collected all of those, and then I was like, there's nothing left, so I jumped off.
Yeah.
And then something else. I was on the back of another dragon. Actually, I was on the back of 3 dragons this week.
Okay.
Because I finished the Deku Tree mission today.
Very good.
And went and found
the
light dragon and got my master sword back.
Very good. We'll get to that in a second. Cool. But yes, I committed to getting all those bits. I now have to do that for the fire dragon and the lightning dragon, and possibly the light dragon as well. But I'm not sure. I think I might still need a bunch of the bits off that. And yeah, that was a 2-day endeavor. I did like 2 bits at like midnight one night, and I was like, I can't keep watching this. I'm going to go to sleep. So I woke up the next morning and got the last bit. And I did that. And then the rest of the time I spent playing this week, I did like a couple shrines, but it was mainly spent doing the Hateno Village election quest.
Nice.
And the reason that took me a while was because old mate Cece, she gives you a bunch of mushrooms to go give to people in that quest. I had used those mushrooms on other things. And so I then had to... I had to wait till the general store refreshed to keep buying mushrooms, and I was one short for the last person to give mushrooms to, so eventually I was just Googled where to find Hyrulian shrooms and went and got a shroom. I believe
that's so good.
Because I forgot to record the first half of our Faces last week, I put that gameplay at the start, and I believe you can see me specifically go and get that one shroom elsewhere in that gameplay, because I was like, I can't wait for this shop again. I've got to go do it. So I did all that. It's a very fun quest. It's got a good resolution. Part of it also involves getting cheese, so I can now make pizza and garlic bread, which I haven't made yet. But I would do that because I know it's a thing you can do. But that's
very cool.
But that was my week, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but I felt like I played Zelda a lot. Maybe it's just because I was on the back of this dragon for a long time. It felt like a long time.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, that was my week. But yeah, I don't have any more to say than that. When you do the Hateno quest, I don't want to spoil bits of it, so I might talk about that a bit more.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, you got the Master Sword.
I did.
Very cool.
So the Deku Tree thing, I'd never defeated any of the gloom hands or whatever they're called.
Yep.
I'd never done that, so that was frustrating as heck until I just went, screw it, I'm just going to shoot bomb arrows at it a whole bunch.
That's the only time that's every time I've fought them, I've always done bomb arrows. I've been like, this is too much effort otherwise. So I think I was
doing okay with fire Keese eyes.
I can see that, yeah.
Because they just go straight into the eye and stun them, plus light them on fire, so there's a lot of damage there. But the bombs just do more radial damage and hit more of them at once. So I did that. I'd also never... Well, other than having defeated some of the Phantom Ganons in the other thing, out of the like 5 or 6 that they make you defeat all at once, and then another one after that. I hadn't really defeated one of those either, because I think they're automatic. They just come up after you defeat Gloom Hands.
Yes.
You defeat Gloom Hands and then instantly there's a Phantom Ganon.
Yeah.
So, so I defeated that, but it took me a bunch of tries and a couple of times where I gave up. I think after I gave up on all the Phantom Ganons, I then went, screw this, I'm going to go do some other stuff.
Yeah.
This was like last Tuesday when we recorded.
Yeah.
And then I went straight to the Deku tree.
Yep.
Jumped down, had Gloom Hands, couldn't defeat them. I'm like, screw this, I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
So that's when, because I kept coming across Gloom stuff, I'm like, maybe I should get the Gloom armor. So started to go find the Gloom armor. Initially, I thought that the Gloom armor was the Glow armor.
Yep.
So I started to collect all the Glow armor.
Yeah.
So I have all the Glow armor and all the Gloom armor. I have all the... I've got so many of the armors now.
Yeah, they just accumulate. I'm similar. I've got a lot of different bits. I don't have many full sets, but I got lots of different bits.
I've got heaps of sets now.
Oh, wow.
Like full sets.
You better get upgrading, Josh.
Yeah, shit. I've got the full Barbarian set, the full Froggy set, which is the one that you get at the end of the newspaper quest. The full Glide set, the full Gloom set. I don't have the full Glow set, sorry, just the shirt and the pants.
Yeah.
And I've got the full Yeager set and the full Fierce Deity set.
Man, that's pretty impressive. You've really gone through the depths.
Yeah. I've been doing a bit. Yeah, love it. So did that, got my sword back, upgraded some stuff at the fairy fountains.
So Bloom armor, definitely very useful for those fights. I had them for both of those fights. And it doesn't protect you from the gloom attacks until you upgrade it, but it does, just the fact that you can go over gloom puddles for a little bit of time makes it so much nicer. It's like, okay, I can relax now. The armor itself looks weird. I'm going to say that. Almost sus. And we're not going to mention particularly why, but if you use your brain a little bit, you can probably work it out.
Bit of a pointy cloth hat.
Yeah, and the thing is, unfortunately, because I used it for a lot of the end game fights, it was in a lot of my cutscenes, and every time I saw it, I was just like,
I had it getting the Master Sword.
Look.
So I'm like looking super sus, pulling this Master Sword out of a dragon's head.
Yeah, we won't go too much more into that, but yeah, it's just that was a choice, but very good armor set. How good is the Master Sword moment? How good?
It's so cool.
I think
it's really, really rad.
Again, I haven't played all the Zeldas. You played a lot more than me, but I don't know if there's many better Master Sword moments than this one.
Not quite. I will say one of the coolest Zelda like lore moments that I've ever had was playing Skyward Sword.
Yeah,
to do with the Master Sword.
Yeah.
Like, that blew my mind. It was like, never knew that. Never knew what they show you in that towards the end.
Would you like to share it for the crowd? Because I don't really mind being spoiled on it, and I think Skyward Sword's been out for a while at this point.
Yeah. From memory, I believe the spirit of Zelda, of that Zelda, went into that sword.
Oh, very cool.
So she's like permanently in there all the time, forever. The spirit of the first Zelda.
Oh, wow.
Or at least that Zelda, because Skyward Sword's technically the first game in the in the series.
Crazy.
So yeah.
And then I'm
pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah.
And then this one is empowered by Zelda, so it's been double Zelda'd.
It's it. And I love the little memory that you get after you finish the Deku Tree quest.
Totally.
Where it's got the Deku Tree basically telling you that the longer that it is, inside some sort of magical energy, the stronger it gets.
Yeah, totally.
And it's been inside Zelda's infinite dragon head thing for like centuries.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's very cool. Context. I, again, got that well after I had the Master Sword, but it was still nice to get the little bits of extra lore as I, like, did that. But yeah, I think it's just a fantastic scene. The music during it, that was like... I think I might have messaged you about it. I definitely messaged our friend Matt about it at the point I did it, but I was like, damn, this game basically made me cry with that scene. It was like, if I was a frequent crier, I would be bawling my eyes out. But it was like, it was very much tearing up and stuff in that moment. It was like so beautiful, so well like shot, framed. The like bit where you like go into the spirit realm and stuff, and Zelda's there and all that. It's just it's something Zelda has done so well for like a long time now, but like the moments of like wonder and stuff like that is just, it's so good. It's so good, man.
So good. I freaking love this damn game.
Yeah, totally.
I'm like, there's part of me that's like very small part of me that's like, I want to play something else purely because there's a lot coming out now.
Yeah.
But there is nothing in me that regrets playing this so much.
Totally.
Like, it's all I want to do. It's all I care about.
Totally.
I don't care about other games right now. Like, just in terms of, keeping up with everything else, I'm like, I would like to keep up, but also I don't care.
But you're a Zelda guy, and that's fine.
Exactly. This game's so...
And it's like, there's something to be said for the simplicity of Breath of the Wild as opposed to this game. But I think this game goes so much harder than Breath of the Wild in those like epic moments. And you'll see again as you get towards the end of the game and stuff. And they didn't need to go as hard as they did, Josh. But they did, and I'm glad they did. I'm amazed they made this game in the span of time that it seems they did, even though they had the engine. They spent a year polishing this, but I'm like, how did you have it already then before that year? Like, it's insane to me how well it came together.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how they, like, have it working on a Switch.
That it's to this point I will never understand that.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, all of the games that I'm currently working on, we are like just trying to get any of these games working, and they're so indie, and it's like they're so small and like individual level based.
And talk about like
alone an open world
frame rates and stuff, and like it'll drop in frame rates, but like just the fact that it's so bug free and like the draw distance on it, like there's definitely like a bug or two I've probably come across, but compared to so many other games, that's very minor. And it's like you look up into the air and you can see just miles away like a sky island, and I'm like, most AAA games on a PC don't even succeed at like that level of draw distance. And does it mean you lose some fidelity? Sure. Is it still not like a very like amazing thing to look at on my tiny little Switch screen? It is. And it's just so freaking impressive.
It's nuts. Like, obviously there's tricks to make it, to make that work.
Yeah.
But they're implementing the best tricks to make it the best possible game. It's just crazy. Like, they keep releasing, like, it's the Nintendo thing, right? Ignoring Pokemon, which is sort of Nintendo but sort of not.
Yeah.
The last few Nintendo games have been just next to flawless, like almost, like Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
Freaking perfect. Didn't come across any issues.
Kirby.
Even Kirby. Probably,
neither of us played Kirby, but it's fantastic apparently.
It's probably great.
Yeah.
Like the Metroid Prime remake was apparently phenomenal. Like I'm itching to get to that. I think that's going to be my flight to Japan plane.
Totally.
They keep releasing just like basically bugless games.
Yeah. I think there's definitely probably a policy in there to do with like, again, having that extra time for polish that I think a lot of developers don't account for, and they can because they're Nintendo, because people will ultimately play the games no matter when they come out. And also like definitely like it's their own hardware, so they probably have more like specific ins and outs of how to make it work. Having said that, it's still technical wizardry, especially this game. It's like, 100%. No matter how much you know about the inner workings of your console, and like the fact that this runs on this tiny little thing, this is like that. It's tiny.
Yeah,
this runs the game. It's not streaming the game; it runs the game.
It's tiny, and it's 7 years old.
Yeah,
like it's not just tiny, but it's over 7 years old now.
It's ridiculous.
Like, because people will go, "What about the Steam Deck? Steam Deck's the same size." Steam Deck has had 7 years of technology improvements. To go on here. Plus, it's much chunkier and much more expensive. This is like an affordable, very small, old piece of hardware.
Yeah.
And they're still managing to do phenomenal things.
Totally. Well, you've got the Master Sword now. I assume you used the Master Sword a little bit.
I haven't used it at all, actually.
Okay, well, in that case,
I haven't done too much in terms of fight. Well, I say in terms of fighting, but I use all my crappy at the moment because I'm like coming towards the sort of, I would assume, towards like end game. I'm trying to use all of my crappy weapons and save my good weapons. So I'm going into like battles with like big groups of monsters using like a rock on a stick or whatever.
That's fair.
Just doing that sort of stuff.
I will say you have some degree of time left. You're towards the latter half of you're in the latter half of the game.
Yes.
You still have a significant amount of game to play. Cool. It's so I wouldn't stress too much about that yet, and you'll still get plenty of good weapons. But I also get it. I was doing the same. Bunch of weapons stayed in my inventory and are still in my inventory having finished the game. So I think I want to like at least for the current battle, I want to have like some really good weapons. Totally.
Going into the Phantom Ganon battle.
Yeah. But yeah, the Master Sword's super good. It's because the lore behind it being like revitalized and more powerful by Zelda. It's extra powerful against like gloom stuff, which you'll find out pretty quick, which is cool.
Sick. I'll use that going into my battle.
And the other thing that was pretty cool, which is not surprising, but you can fuse stuff to it, which is great.
Cool.
And I think...
And it never breaks, does it?
No, but so if you fuse something to it, you know how it needs to recharge? So that's when you lose the thing that you fuse to it. So I often would go through and like I would fuse something to it that is strong but not super strong because it already does quite a lot of damage. So I'd fuse because eventually you fight a lot of like silver bokoblins, so I'd put one of their horns on it as opposed to like a super high end like bit that I would use for a more like permanent weapon. So I think that was the strategy I ended up going with. But I think I think it's cool the way they like adapted the Master Sword and kind of made it fit in with the story of the Master Sword in this game. So it's not just the same old Master Sword you use. Even if you look at it up close, it's kind of got like the decayed bits of it have been like kept on the sword with like the
cool
newly empowered bits. I think the attention to detail once again, fantastic.
That's cool.
Yeah, you didn't need to be able to fuse stuff to it, but it makes total sense that you can, and that's great. And I think that's super cool.
How does it recharge again? Is it just time?
It's just time. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you just have to wait a little bit of time. Maybe it's also like 10 minutes. I don't know. It feels about that long. But super good. I'm glad you've also been doing the little like mini dungeon in Hyrule Castle that you've been talking about, where you kind of like go through and fight all the gloom stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a fun little surprise to me. That like, I was like, it didn't feel like it needed to be in the game. Like, it's not something I expected to be doing until like really late game. But like the fact that you kind of go and do that, and then you'll very soon find out there's a decent chunk more game to go. And I think it's a fun little interstitial where you've done a lot of like puzzle solving throughout the game, and then it's just like, all right, combat time. This is a combat dungeon, and it's kind of fun to be able to do that in the middle of the game. And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the phantom fight. That was super cool. I'm glad.
Yes.
I am not surprised you found it difficult, because
Yeah.
I think I'd fought a few more at that point, so I was a bit more used to them. But it's like it's properly hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I think I think I've got some strats now. I've seen like I looked up some stuff for the Deku tree. I'm like, how do people kill these hands?
Yeah.
And yeah, when people got to the Phantom, they were just like keeping their distance with spears and stuff.
Yeah. Totally.
So staying close enough that he doesn't like charge at you.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like keeping your distance enough so that when he's you can see him about to swing, and you can just jump out of the way super easy.
Yeah. Getting the dodges on point is also super useful, because you get your little flurry times.
Yes.
I will say is you proceed towards the end of the game, start practicing your dodging again, because that was something I had to very quickly adapt to, that I was not doing as much. Because I remember in Breath of the Wild, you'd fight Lionels quite a lot. Again, I barely fought any in this game. The only one I fought was right at the end. And they kind of force you to dodge a lot and time those dodges perfectly. So I was like really good at that in Breath of the Wild, but I completely lost that skill. Completely lost how to parry. That's the other slight note for you. You will need to use it, not as much as the dodging, I'd say, but you will need to use that as well. So maybe just practice that a little bit. Because again, Breath of the Wild, I was parrying Guardian's beams and stuff. I was like getting super good at this. Barely used it because of all the fuse systems and all the other cool things you do in this game. I was basically forgot it was a mechanic, but it's like
totally.
I think they bring that kind of stuff back, and I was like, oh man, now I have to kind of like reorient how I've been doing combat. So that's my little warning to you.
Fair.
But I think it's a fun little. I think it's kind of like a little fifth dungeon, 4.5th dungeon in between.
Sure.
And I enjoyed that quite a lot. So I'm glad you're doing that.
I'll hopefully finish that off tonight.
Yeah. I also like, because at that point in the game, the whole thing when you're going up to the castle is that you're following Zelda through the castle. But at that point in the game, you very much know that this is not Zelda. Like, Zelda's been doing some shady stuff.
Yeah. After doing all the
memories,
the memory stuff, you're like,
it's pretty obvious it's Ganon.
The Zelda that you keep seeing throughout that everyone keeps seeing throughout Hyrule is not.
So it's very funny because all the in-world characters don't know all this, so they're like, it's Zelda, and then you're just following this Zelda through the castle, being like, this is not right.
Not her.
And then she does like a really creepy stare at the end, and I think they nailed it. Yeah. It's not as weird as Ganon's creepy smile, but it's but it's still creepy. You forgot about the smile. I'll always bring back the smile.
So good.
But yeah, I don't think we need to talk about too much more.
I think that's it. I've written down one question.
Mm-hmm.
Just a single question.
Yep.
Because you mentioned, I think last week or the week before, that your partner Jean has been, or was at least, sort of focusing on building her house in the game.
Yep.
How are people making money? Do you sell things a lot?
This is something I have to ask her, because I'm not really sure. Because I added some rooms to my house because I wanted to like store some weapons and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm not really sure. It's very expensive.
Yeah, because
I sell like all my gems, and I still feel like I have no money.
Sure. Yeah. I have like last week I had over 3,000 gems. This week, now that I've upgraded some armor, I have just over 1,000.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm like, I still haven't even bought a house either.
You haven't bought the house? Oh, okay. No. Well,
I know it's there. I didn't have enough at the time, so I left. But
I will follow that up. I will follow that up with Jane, because she's had a cat this week. She got a cat the past week, so hasn't had a lot of chance to play Zelda as much. But I'll ask her and see what exactly is going on there, because I'm also curious. As someone who has like played through most of the game at this point, I'm like, I don't know how people get the money. I assume I could probably sell those dragon shards that I got off the back. They probably sell for quite a lot. It's probably a good way of doing it. But again, I'm not really sure what's going on there. And I think the other thing I told you last week was that I wanted to do the Hyrulian village stuff.
Yes.
I haven't got into that because I spent all the time on the dragon, and then I did the Hyrulian village, which was one of my other things.
Election. Yep,
so I think Hyrulian will be this week's mission. Cool. And then I should probably just do a lot of shrines. I need to catch up to you.
They're really fun.
Yeah, totally.
I will say I have been using like the internet for some of them. Some of them just literally the location, and then I go there and I try and find it, and if I can't find it, then I'll go back to the internet to find out that there's a cave like half a kilometer away sometimes.
Totally.
It's really far away, and it's like I'm never going to find that.
Have you been using it for solutions though, or just to find them?
Just to find them.
Okay, yeah, cool. I wouldn't shame you if you did. That's also very reasonable.
Yeah.
I have just been trying to not use them for solutions because I'm like, I want to see if I can do it in my own way as much as possible.
Yeah, I figured out pretty much all of them. I think maybe there was like one or two that I had to get a solution for. But yeah, I just use it as like a kicking off point. So once it's like, there's a cave here, I'm like, cool.
Totally.
That's all I need. I'll figure it out from
the best way to use walkthroughs. I'm always a proponent of if you need a walkthrough, if you're getting so annoyed at the game that you're going to quit it, just use a walkthrough. Because like it'll just keep your enjoyment going with the game. And it's like that, in my opinion, that's the best way to use walkthroughs is you get the bit of information you specifically need and then you can just close it. Maybe you'll read a bit ahead and get a little spoiler. That's up to you. But it's like, it's entirely dependent on how you use it. I don't think there's anything wrong with using walkthroughs. So totally, I probably will start doing that as I try and get more and more shrines because I do want to get all of them. And I've got quite a way to go, as you can see.
Yeah. Like there was one, I found this random door in the side of a cliff.
Yeah.
That was a Yiga clan door.
Yeah.
And I went up to it. The guy wouldn't let me in. I didn't have all the pieces I had 2 out of the 3 pieces of the Yiga clan outfit. But I couldn't find a shrine that was near there anywhere.
Yeah.
But I found that. I put a marker on it just to remember to come back to that with the full Yiga outfit.
Yeah.
Kept looking around, couldn't figure it out. Went to the internet, and it's like, when you get all 3 pieces of Yiga clan outfit, go to here, and that will lead you to the shrine.
Yeah.
Like a hidden shrine in there. So I'm like, okay. So that's all I did. Then I looked up where to get that final piece.
Yep, totally.
Did that and then continued on.
Yeah, I think
so just
especially
hints.
I think especially as you like get further and further on into the game and want to like complete bits of it, it's like it's very much you gotta start looking stuff up or you're gonna go crazy. Shout out to the people who actually found the stuff out. The people who make the walkthroughs, that's a lot of effort.
Totally. Yeah. I got the giant horse too.
Oh, nice. Have you gotten Zelda?
Giant horse.
Have you gotten Zelda's? You would have gotten Zelda's horse as well.
I got Zelda's horse last week as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So
by last week, I think I'd had it. Yeah, but I needed the giant horse for a shrine.
You do. I haven't done that one yet, but I've got the quest.
Okay. Yeah. The dude who wants to see a giant horse.
Yeah. Not too much talk in the Hyrulian Hijinks channel this week. But Luke Riss said finished finding every light route. So once again, like 200 and however many 60 hours into the game or something.
Yeah, right.
Crazy.
So I think there's 120 light routes because I think there's 120 land shrines.
I thought there's 150 shrines, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think there's 30 in the sky.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think
Is there a light route for every land shrine? That's crazy.
Yeah. So like if you mirror the map, for any light route that you've found, if you go just above that, if you don't have a shrine, put a marker and there'll be a shrine directly above it.
I thought they just copied some of them. I didn't realize it was all of them. That's crazy.
Every single one, and the names are reversed.
Yeah. I knew the name bit, but that's super cool. All right.
Yeah. So there's 120 underneath. So yeah. Well, I know there's 120 shrines on top because I've been looking it up.
I assume you
120 underneath.
I assume you get something for doing the light routes as well. I don't know yet, but because I know you do for the shrines, but I don't know if it's a thing for the light routes as well. Yeah. Anyway. There was one big post by Nicrotech today in the channel.
Interesting. Hit me.
and I'll read it. It's a bit of a long one, but if there's any spoilers for us, I will skip over them for you in particular, but I don't think there is. He has spoiled out some stuff though. He said, just finished latest Hijinks, unfortunately due to work stuff. I haven't had any time to play this week, but I'm really enjoying the discussion and looking forward to hopefully finishing soon. Do apologize again if the discussion made anyone feel like I was stating you should be playing a certain way. I wasn't meaning to call out anyone or be critical of a playstyle. It's fine. You actually said it very respectfully. It's totally fine. Good.
Thank you, Nitro.
It was a good discussion. That's why we talked about it so much last week. I think it's a super interesting thing to talk about. And he says, I do lament a little bit that the game is so open-ended that a lot of people don't seem to be encountering the fairies at all, or encountering Hestu at all, or getting frustrated at sages because they don't know you can turn them off, or various other bits and pieces. It's brilliant game design that it still works, and people can and are still playing and enjoying it. But I often see people hating on things that, had the game held your hand just a bit more, might have made the experience, less frustrating. Perhaps it is a good thing because it encourages these discussions where someone says something and you're like, oh, of course. But I guess I panic at the thought of someone giving up on something just because the game wasn't forthcoming enough with its info. Which I think he's got some examples, which we'll go into in a second. But it's an interesting discussion because he's totally right in that, like, in one sense, it's great game design that people cannot engage with stuff and still enjoy the game. And I know that's the case, as we talked about, for plenty of people. But then it's also like, would it make the game easier and more accessible if there was a bit more hand-holding? And I think to this game's credit, this game holds your hand more than Breath of the Wild ever did. Like, it puts the fairy fountains on your map. It marks certain, like, loot locations on your map, stuff like that. So I think... this game actually does it more than Breath of the Wild, but there's still a lot of that stuff that, as we've talked about, you don't engage with. But I'll go into the examples. 2 examples. If you head back to Lookout Landing after the Wind Temple, Pura directs you to Death Mountain next, and the shortest path from Lookout Landing to Death Mountain puts the first Great Fairy in that path. However, there's nothing to encourage you to go back to Lookout Landing after each temple, so not only are you being eased along the intended path, So not only are you not being eased along the intended path, you'd be entirely forgiven for not even knowing that there is one. The only reason I did it that way, and based on everyone else's experience I've heard so far, I think I got lucky, is because I have this OCD-like tendency to want to see everything that's changed when I do a world thing. So I religiously go back to hub-like areas in games and re-talk to everyone. That paid off big time in Tears of the Kingdom, but I totally get why you wouldn't want to, or even think to do that. Which, totally, I think that's... Yeah, they mention in dialogue that they push you back there, but as we've talked about, I think in previous episodes, you never are specifically directed back there. So it's kind of, it is an interesting thing of like, you could kind of add plenty. I think to me that one is a particular thing of, I think they do just want to leave it open-ended for people to do it in any way they can, where a lot of games would specifically put you on that path. But
totally.
I do think the fairy point is a very fair point.
I think because the first game was so praised for just being so open and exploratory that like it didn't need to tell you to go and explore, you just did. So I think this one is just assuming that you will.
Totally.
And for the most part I feel like it totally works, but some people, I assume assume with the first one, some people might get turned off by that, or
people definitely will. But I think my ultimate thing, and I'll read the other example as well, but my ultimate thing is I think that level of freedom ultimately pulls in more people than it'll push away. And you can never appease everyone when you're designing a game. But I think the way in which they've designed this game is very impressive because it is that open-ended. His other example is how he got the Master Sword, which definitely wasn't the intended way, and I'm a little bit bummed that it happened the way it did. In Hateno Village, I went back to the house I bought in Breath of the Wild and was pleasantly surprised to discover that... Do you want me to say this thing? Have you been back to that house?
You can. Okay.
I'm pleasantly surprised to discover that Zelda and I had moved in together, and then found Zelda's secret study behind the house, which is a very cool detail. There I discovered a quest that mentioned Zelda had enhanced my champion's tunic from the original game, which I don't know if you've been there, but I would highly recommend going because there's some cute little notes about it that I would recommend going and looking at. And he says, fuck yeah, I want that, because in the original game, it had the best general stats when fully upgraded, and also gave you the ability to see the actual HP as a number for each enemy. The quest indicated that it was hidden in a specific location in Hyrule Castle, so I headed there, retrieved it, and took it straight to a Great Fairy to upgrade it. The very first upgrade required Light Dragon scales, which I didn't have, so I figured out I'd just keep an eye out for that. Which in itself, a bit messed up, that to upgrade the tunic, you need to shoot off a Light Dragon scale, which is Zelda. It's messed up, Josh. It's messed up.
Now I'm intrigued and confused as to how Zelda has moved in with you and the Light Dragon still exists. I'll find out.
I think the connotation is that it's in the past. That this was where they were in between the two games. Zelda and Link moved in together in between the two games. Had a little relationship.
Oh.
It's very
cute. Isn't this the house you've just built?
No, the house you could build in the first game, because you could build a house in the first game in Hateno Village.
Oh. Right, and I never did that one.
No. So
so I never knew. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Definitely would go back there, and there's a bunch of cool little details.
Rad.
But anyway, not an hour later, I needed some Sunderlions for a quest, so I walked back to one of the shrines on the starting island because I knew there was a bunch up there, and right as I walked there, maybe 100 meters off the distance, was the fucking Light Dragon. Oh, sweet, I thought. I need a scale. I'll just jump across and grab. Wait, is that... It was. And I was like, okay, doing this in Breath of the Wild required a heart check, so I'll just see how far off I am from doing that. So I tried, and because he had the stamina already, I got it.
Nice.
I had maybe 4 memories, and none of them were referencing the dragon twist. I completely spoiled that entire quest line and the final reveal for myself, just because a book in a well started in a series of events that led to me entirely bypassing a giant section of the story by accident. Again, it's a cool in a she was there the entire time kind of way, but a bummer in a I wish she hadn't been accessible until the quest where she flies down kind of way. Which, fascinating story. Thank you for that. Because
that's cool.
That's very, very crazy. But yeah, it's kind of... I'll put a light spoiler warning in at the edit for that one, because some people might not want to know all those details, but we talked a bit about that stuff. But yeah, I think that is definitely one of those things where it's like, it's cool that it's accessible, but... And again, this kind of comes with some of the order in which you can do a bunch of the different main quest bits, is that maybe some of that freedom does lead to moments like this, where it's like, the concept that you could go and get the Master Sword and beat the game without doing any of the extra stuff is great from a speed running perspective, but is it good from a general player interaction with the story perspective? Is there a way in which the Light Dragon could be there after you've done a certain amount of the quest or something, for example? It's definitely it's an interesting question. It's interesting because I feel like what Nitrotex is going through here is a very specific, not many people would experience it in this way, but does that the question is, does that mean it's not a valid criticism of the game? Because I think it's very valid criticism that you can essentially spoil yourself if you happen to do it in that way, or not even in the way Nitrotex said. You might just come across the Light Dragon in the sky and be like, oh, I'll go over there. You might have done even less memories and somehow still have all the stamina and be like, oh, I'll just go over there. That's one of the dragons. I haven't seen that dragon in the previous game. I'm going to go explore it. And then you just see the sword there.
You could so easily do that. You could just do a bunch of shrines, upgrade your stamina to, I think you just need 2 rings. Yeah. So you only need 20 shrines.
Yeah, totally.
And you can go straight to the Light Dragon and get the Master Sword.
Yeah. Which is cool in one sense. But it's also then I experienced that, and I can't say for sure because I didn't experience it in that way, but I would feel kind of oh, there goes the story.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
And you can uncover more details from the memories, but I had a little bit of that moment when I went and did the Deku Tree stuff after I'd done because I got the Master Sword after doing all the memories, and then I went and did the Deku Tree stuff, and I just got the cutscene, and then the quest ended. Or I can't remember at which point you would have gone and got the sword. But my point is, it just kind of I was I freed the Koroks, and I got a little bit of extra detail about the sword, but it wasn't it definitely felt like the quest was there for you to go get the sword, as opposed to, which is weird because it's another thing where it's at that point in the game, I think a lot of people would have just got the sword from doing all the memories if they'd done all the memories at this point. And so despite the fact that every time I got a Korok seed, they kept being like, go back to the forest is messed up. And I was like, okay, I'll go to the forest and do it. And I went and did it, and I was like, well, that was underwhelming. So it's like, there's definitely those moments. I think there's so many ways in which this game benefits from it not being linear, but it's definitely worth talking about and maybe criticizing the ways in which that like openness can affect specific parts of the game. I think it's still a fantastic game, but obviously it's totally interesting conversation. Thank you for the big message, because I think I love talking about this kind of stuff, especially in a game that is designed in this way. I don't feel like we get a lot of games designed this way. So open world games, maybe only Elden Ring, and neither of us played that much of it, but like most open world games are not as open as this one is. So it's very, very interesting to chat about. All right. We did say we are going to try and keep this to half an hour, and as usual, it's not been half an hour.
We did not.
I slightly blame Nitritex, but not entirely, because we also just like talking to each other.
It's true.
But yeah, thank you once again to everyone who's following along with the podcast, listening to us, chatting in the Discord, or not chatting in the Discord, just having a listen, keeping up with what we're doing in Hyrule. I reckon, I don't know, we'll probably one or two more of these, depending on how Josh is going. There may even be a week or two where like Josh is ultimately like, I have not played the game. I mean, I don't think it'll happen because you're very into it, but we may skip a week or two or do something else in between if that's the case. But yeah, we'll keep doing these until next time. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
Goodbye. So long. We made that a thing. We made that a thing last week. So long, everyone.
Yeah.